Now these are the best weapons after the March update. Let's talk about it. What's good, YouTube? NoGoodEman coming to you today with an updated weapons tier list for March 2025. So guys, now that the Stormbringer has hit the scenes, it's time to talk about what are the best weapons in solo leveling Arise, obviously incorporating the wind meta, the recent light meta, and of course, let's not forget the fire meta. So a bunch of different metas hitting the scenes, leaving the scenes, and so we need to talk about what's hot and what's not. But before we do, make sure you guys leave a like on the video. If you're new, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you don't miss a live or an upload, and then finally support your boy on that Netmarble website to eat on those free codes. As always, a new season has started, so if you're supporting your boy in season 7, go ahead and click the link in the description to support the Moniker Gaming, and let's rock out in season 8. We are doing insane numbers on the supporters, on the rankings. Shout out to the top supporters. As always, we got Zeeks, we got The Andre, we got Monkey Sage, and a bunch of NIDs. But let's go ahead and eat as far as the tier list is concerned. I do want to talk about a few changes that I do want to bring up as far as my last tier list, starting with the light meta. I did have things like the gold-tailed fox at the beneficial category, but honestly, with the ability to now get it as the new events have rolled around, I do want to say that you guys want to obtain this weapon. I think that the gold-tailed fox is a very good light weapon that you guys want to be using and you want to be obtaining for things like your light metas. Let's talk about the workshop of brilliant light. A lot of people are not using the fire meta and they're opting for the light meta. So regardless whether you're using the huntsman and let's say the divine quarterstaff, or whether you're using the gold-tailed fox and the divine quarterstaff, the gold-tailed fox is a very good weapon to have. And along with that, now that we brought up the gold-tailed fox, let's talk about the divine quarterstaff. The divine quarterstaff in my last rankings was at the very end, and looking back, it might have been a little bit preemptive, but we're actually going to move it up a few slots. I do think that the divine quarterstaff is one of the most insane weapons in the game, doing a high amount of damage in, you know, just a few couple hits. So regardless, the divine quarterstaff has now earned its right because it's being used a lot more often. It supersedes a lot of different game modes. Think Battlefield at a time. People are bringing the divine quarterstaff in non-Battlefield or non-light weakness Battlefield at a time content and getting high scores. So that should let you know what the divine quarterstaff is essentially made out of. Again, it's a very good weapon in the game, and if you get hit while using the weapon, Heavenly Order Strike literally takes place, and from there it's like an extreme evasion in a sense. So those are the light metas, but we do have the wind meta currently at the bottom. So as far as the wind meta as a whole goes, let's go ahead and talk about the weapon you guys do want to know about, right? The Stormbringer. Where does the Stormbringer rank in all of these rankings, guys? The Stormbringer is going to go into the top tier of the must obtain category. And look, I'm not saying you must obtain this weapon right about now. The update literally just hit last night. Okay, so the Stormbringer, while I'm saying it is an A rank or a must obtain, you guys do not have to obtain it right now. I am talking about the future content to come, because as you guys know, Netmarble releases weapons, they release hunters, and then in the next update, that's when they're going to be important. That's when you're going to need to utilize them, so on and so forth. And I do want to say, with this being craftable, you guys can have the ability to get the Stormbringer all the way to Advancement 3 as a free to play if you craft it two times this period and then 2 times in about 2 weeks when the period resets. But regardless, why is the Stormbringer so high in this rankings? It's actually going to be because of the amount of wind weapons we actually have within our arsenal within SLA. So it does take over the Fan of the Fire Demon, because the Fan of the Fire Demon was basically only able to be paired with the Phoenix Soul. However, the Stormbringer has some very good weapons to pair it with. So let's go ahead and talk about them, starting with the Westwind. In my last rankings, the Westwind was in the could be useful category. Now, definitely if we're talking about, let's say, the early access Westwind, that might as well go all the way up to the S category. But guys, the Westwind has gotten nerfed so many times over time, and regardless, it still could have been useful in that way. But let's say now you're pairing it with the Stormbringer weapon, you guys might see an increased use of this for mid to early game players. So I do think that the Westwind can now be called a beneficial weapon in that regard. Not gonna move it too much higher, but at least going to put it at the very end. As far as Baruka's daggers, I'm willing to put this at least to the top of the could be useful category. It was somewhere in the middle, I think, between Orb of Avarice, Kasaka's Venom Fang, and things so on and so forth. But Baruka's daggers, another wind weapon, another weapon that inflicts course, nimbleness when you guys shadow step. So there's a very good amount of wind weapons you could pair it with. But of course, let's talk about some insane goats. We're talking about the Demon King daggers. So guys, as you guys know, the Demon King daggers is always going to be one of the strongest weapons in the game, but how strong is it? In my last tier list, this was at number 3, right? So one of the top 3 weapons in the game. However, this is going to change. This is going to change. This is going to change. Now, hear me out here, because it's not gonna take over Plum, so don't be worried, but I do think that this is a top 2 weapon in the game. And the Demon King daggers, you could honestly argue, right? I'm willing to argue for it's the number 1 weapon in the game. Strength wise, it is the number 1 weapon in the game, but is it a must max weapon in the game? I honestly think so, though Demon King daggers have been around for a long time, and as far as solo leveling Arise is concerned, this is canonically the best weapon in Genu's arsenal as of right now. But regardless, guys, the Demon King daggers did shine on their own for things like the Workshop of Brilliant Light for Baron, Hard Baron clears, Proof of Strong Baron. People have been using the Demon King daggers with the Demonic Flower Plum Sword, and now with the addition of the Stormbringer, we now have the ability to boost the Demon King daggers even more. But why do I still put it at, let's say, number 2? Well, that's actually going to be because the main way, or the main reasons why the Demon King daggers are doing so good is because of the amplifying draw effects from Plum Flower Sword's Advancement 3 effect. So, not saying that it's now a little bit nerfed, but the ability to not have amplifying draw does come into effect if you are going to pair it with the Stormbringer. Regardless, I do think that these might be arguable. And then, of course, we're not saying that the Moonshot is a weak weapon at all. It's just that weapons are now starting to take their limelights. More so, elemental weapons are starting to take their limelights, right? If we're talking about things like the Phoenix Soul, the Fan of the Fire Demon, Stormbringer, Fan of the Fire Demon, yada yada yada. I do think that the Demon King daggers will honestly shine in the limelight, and we've played Proof of Strong Hobgoblin, we've destroyed him. We played the other one, the Twin-Headed Ogre, we've destroyed him. But regardless, guys, that just leaves one weapon to talk about, and that's going to be the Demon King Longsword. As always, let's show you guys exactly where we had it right. In the last tier list, we had it in the A category, or the must obtain. This will change. This will change. This will change. This will change. I do think that the Demon King Longsword is a very insane weapon that you guys always want to have, right? And I do think you want to obtain it at least once. And this is going to be more so for a lot of players that might not be good at their defense within solo leveling Arise, right? And that's an okay thing, because not everybody plays on, let's say, a keyboard and mouse with the Logitech G502 like myself, with all those extra buttons, yada yada yada. You might play on PC, a tablet, a small laptop, keyboard and mouse, whatever the case may be. The Demon King Longswords was actually one of my favorite weapons to start, and I do think that the counter attack use is very, very good. And if you guys max it out, you will see an even increased use with this. And with the Stormbringer now being into effect, if you guys bring the Stormbringer with the Demon King Longsword, it's just going to be an even more insane pairing, boosting the weapon to untold potential. So, Demon King daggers, Demon King Longsword, and in reality, I'm willing to argue that the Demon King Longsword is now an S rank must max, but there's no definitive proof. If you're going to go for one wooden weapon, I do believe that it's going to be the Demon King dagger. So all in all, the S rank or the must max categories, you don't really see too many elemental duplicates in that. And of course, Moonshadow and Plum is the exception, because you could really take Moonshadow and Plum to about 90% of content and you can succeed in that way. But guys, that is currently my updated tier list for the weapons of March 2025's update. What do you guys think of the tier list itself? Go ahead and leave your thoughts, theories, and comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications, and with that, I'll see you guys in the next one. Y'all take care. Peace.